Good morning. My name is Tim O'Brien, and I'm coming to you from Atlanta. On behalf of the entire Plus Group organization, thank you for attending today's 2021 DI Day event. Content will be delivered today by our next generation of income protection experts located throughout the country. We are certain you will come away from this event better informed with proven strategies to help you create more business, whether you are a DI veteran or a newcomer. Some of you may recognize the skyline behind me as the great city of Cleveland, where in just under 9 hours, another huge event will be taking place, the 2021 National Football League Draft. Like many folks, I will be tuned in at 8 p.m. to see Clemson's own Trevor Lawrence selected #1 overall, then witness the rest of the first round drama unfold. These well-deserving college athletes have been extensively studied and thoroughly examined physically, mentally, and medically. Personnel departments of each NFL team have been tasked with making crucial decisions that can shape the future of their respective franchise. For the NFL, it's about more than just building the next generation of great professional football stars. It's about building the next generation of great leaders. Not unlike the NFL, the Plus Group is committed to identifying and developing the next generation of income protection leaders. Our commitment includes being a resource of knowledge and expertise to assist you in preparing at every level, teaching you the craft and giving you every opportunity to showcase your talents. We'll begin today's event here in Atlanta to discuss the question, why sell income protection? Next, we will bring in our experts from Nashville, Detroit, and Pittsburgh to share insights into the who, as in who needs income protection. Finally, we will round things off with our Dallas, Minneapolis, and Atlanta professionals and a conversation on how to sell income protection. So let's get started by introducing to you my #1 draft choice, Brett O'Brien.
All right, looks like we're good to go. Thank you, Dad, and welcome everyone to DI Day 2021. We've been planning this event for a few months now and are excited to have listeners from all over the country and from all lines of the insurance industry. My name is Brett O'Brien, and I'm a second-generation DI professional in the Plus Group. One of the aspects of the call today that I'm most excited about is every one of the people you're going to hear from is a part of what we call the next generation of the Plus Group. Each of us has a story that has led us to the Plus Group, and my hope is that our stories will encourage each of you to craft your own story and be able to deliver it with a passion to your market. Our presentation today is going to be broken down into 3 parts, with the first session addressing the question, why sell income protection? My story starts when I enrolled at Clemson University back in the mid-2000s. Now, you may love college sports, you may also despise your rivals, or you may not care one way or another, but I was blessed to go to a university that had an excellent architecture program. In high school, I was able to take an Architecture 101 class that introduced me to the profession and got me passionate about designing and building. So I spent 4 years at Clemson and came out the other side with an architecture degree and a lot of questions as to what the heck I was going to do to find work in the middle of a recession. After submitting resumes and searching everywhere for a few months, I got into bartending and ultimately ended up managing a restaurant for a couple of years. After 2 years, I was starting the road toward getting my master's, and my dad approached me at that pivotal moment in my life and suggested that I come learn a little bit about what he does for a living and see if it could be a good fit. One thing he told me that stuck with me all these years is that if he could start over in the business, he would focus on becoming the best disability insurance producer that he could be, simply because of the potential. So this is where my journey with the Plus Group began. And I say all of this to highlight the fact that many of us in this industry come from all walks of life. It doesn't take someone studying risk management and insurance to become a passionate advocate for the income protection industry. Anyone can have this conversation. And hopefully today we can give you the tools you need to take the next step. No matter what your background, we can all agree that the insurance industry is extremely diverse. And I think now more than ever, the information distributed between the different parts of this industry are starting to bleed together. Clients are relying on professionals for almost every major decision they are making in their lives. From asking how to invest their wealth to getting the opinion of their advisor on the best car to drive or book to read. These same advisors are working harder than ever to filter through the misinformation or the proverbial water cooler financial advice to provide their clients with good, solid, foundational risk protection. Whether you're a life and health professional, property and casualty agent, benefits expert, or you're focused on other planning aspects, you can still provide additional value to your relationships by bringing up the conversation. And trust me, you're going to have to bring it up. I've been doing this for a decade now, and I can almost guarantee that your client's not going to ask you about income protection unless they just met with their doctor and had a change in their health. This probably doesn't come as a surprise, but the best advisors are a lot more successful in the industry by being proactive rather than reactive. Taking this one step further, I've seen many advisors have great success by talking about income protection from the very first meeting with their client. Clearly, if it comes up as one of the first items you discuss, your clients will sense the importance. But mentioning that you will talk more later about this aspect of their financial plan, you set the groundwork for your follow-up conversation, and you establish clear expectations that you will at the very least require the client to tell you no. You're absolutely going to hear some no's, and everyone you're going to talk to and hear from today knows that no's are more common than yeses. But at the very least, you can sleep better at night knowing that you did everything you could to help your client understand the risk and make an informed decision. I truly believe that there's a plan design that can fit anyone's budget. Adjusting features and benefit periods can account for different risk tolerances. And with the suite of products that the Plus Group brings to the table, you can be confident that you're bringing the best solution to your clients that specifically addresses their occupation, their medical history, and their risk tolerance. The data. I want to preface this section by saying I believe it is important to have a base understanding of the likelihood of becoming disabled during your working years. But we don't want to dwell on this when explaining the need to the client. The data here is all solid, but the concept is told through stories and through personalization at a much higher success rate. I find that knowing the statistics helps an advisor come to terms with the why income protection should be discussed with their clients and can be saved to help augment a point or story that they will discuss a little bit later. With that said, the numbers really are staggering. 25% of the new workforce is going to have some sort of disabling event that prevents them from working for 90 days or longer before they retire. Looking at this a different way, I think we would all love to have the odds of 1 in 4 was to win some sort of prize or reward. Having those type of odds, we feel pretty good about our chances. It's our job to make sure our market doesn't face these odds without an income protection plan. It's also important to distinguish between the two major contributors to long-term disability claims. When most people are asked what they think the number one cause for disability claims will be, they answer some sort of accident. Injuries make up only about 9% of all long-term disability claims. The majority of long-term disability claims are due to musculoskeletal disorders and cancer, coming in at 29% and 15% respectively. Drawing this distinction is a worthwhile exercise because we are a lot more aware of just how unpredictable an illness can be in today's pandemic environment. It is undeniable that COVID has changed the way this country is going to operate going forward from a health and safety standard. But the disability insurance we place on our clients isn't going to play favorites. It is designed to be there to help them get through the unknown of what lies ahead in life. The last statistics I want to highlight is the expenses associated with becoming sick are the leading cause of bankruptcy in our country. You can see here that 41% of bankruptcy are attributed to you or someone in your family becoming sick or injured. Health insurance is extremely important, and there's a reason our federal government is working to figure out the right solution for healthcare. but healthcare is designed to pay someone else when you need medical treatment. You can ask your client, how about we design a plan that is going to pay you in the event that you need medical treatment? For more information along these same lines, I would encourage you to check out this pretty handy website, disabilitycanhappen.org. It's a nonprofit consumer awareness website that has some unique tools like a running calculator for all of the working age Americans who have become disabled in 2021. The biggest barrier to entry for new advisors has to be how to start the disability insurance conversation. And I'm a big believer that the opportune word there is conversation. Today's client has access to a wealth of knowledge about the companies you represent and the vision and goals you espouse on your websites and profiles simply by logging online. But what really separates transactional insurance from customized individual insurance plans is the ability to listen to your client's story. The income protection conversation comes down to one simple question that you can ask each and every person you connect with. Do you rely on your income? Sure. There are going to be people that are independently wealthy and can legitimately answer that question with a no. But the vast majority of people in their working years are going to say, yes, I do rely on my income. And once you establish that first yes, you now have uncovered the opportunity to have the conversation about income protection. It really is as simple as asking the question and waiting for the answer. If you know what questions to ask and then how to listen, you're going to pick up quickly on the aspects of your client's financial plan that need support. And the foundation of that support is your client's most valuable asset, their ability to earn an income. One of the first things I heard when I got into this business was the phrase, disability insurance helps you protect your most valuable asset. The fact was as true back then as it is today. But being a visual person, I like to break down what protecting your client's most valuable asset really means. The industry has done numerous studies on this topic over the years, and the same conclusion is always reached. Individuals polled will quickly identify a house or their vehicle as an asset, and some will point to their retirement plan or their life insurance coverage as their most important asset. But when in reality, their most important asset is their ability to earn an income. So if we use the examples here of someone who is earning $100,000 and is 30 years old, factoring in a modest 4% yearly pay increase, we come up with a total earnings potential of over $8 million during their working years. The biggest disconnect is most clients don't view their income as an asset, and when their health and their mental capacity is absolutely the biggest driver for their asset accumulation, we can help them make that connection. Here's another way I like to suggest advisors have this conversation. When applying for multiple jobs, would you compare the benefits between the options? Would you rather have a full salary but no health insurance? Of course not. However, if something were to happen to you, would you rather pay less now to cover the cost of disability, or would you rather have nothing and potentially lose your home? The average cost for a disability insurance policy that covers between 60 to 65% of your income costs between 1% and 3% of your before tax income. Job B shows that we can earn a little bit less annually, an amount that will not affect the bottom line, while protecting a huge chunk of our income. Here's another way to look at it. Imagine your client, Robin Banks. She's got a big house and a mortgage, life insurance payments, monthly expenses, and a fishing addiction. Would you rather have job A, where she has no money to make those boat payments and possibly lose her home? Or would you rather have job B, where she can keep the status quo while buying time to recover or plan for her next step? The three-legged stool of financial risk. If you remove one of the legs of a stool, the chair falls over, and so does the person sitting on it. This example can be made with a few easy questions during your client conversations. There are three major components to consider when developing someone's financial plan. First, you can ask, what are we going to do if you die too young? This is a natural lead into the life insurance conversation. And then we can ask, what are you going to do if you live too long? Retirement planning, wealth accumulation, and long-term care can be a good solutions to the risks of living too long. Finally, we need to address what would happen in between and asking, What are you going to do if you become sick or injured? Individual disability is an insurance plan that offers a benefit to replace income lost due to an inability to work because of an illness or injury. Said more simply, if you can't do your job and become sick or injured, disability insurance is there to support. Why is this important? Because as the graphic here shows, an individual's income creates the foundation for their entire financial plan, not to mention their ability to pay their mortgage, pay for car insurance, save for retirement, even to pass on assets to their family. All of these things are predicated on earning a consistent or at least predictable income. The advantage to having an individual disability insurance policy is that should you become disabled, you're still able to maintain your current lifestyle without needing to drain savings, business profits, dive too deep into PTO, or figure out a special deal with your employer. When someone gets sick or injured, expenses go up to pay for treatment, and the lives of the people around that person are adjusted as well. A spouse or a loved one will need to take time off work to help transport or even prepare meals or help with difficult everyday tasks that the individual can't do themselves. The beauty of the bottom layer of the pyramid is that if you remove the question of where the money is going to be coming from to pay for this disability, you move from a hopefully temporary and potentially permanent issue. I want to take a few minutes to tell you a story about a good friend of mine and how income protection shaped his life. Anthony was a stud soccer player, still is a stud soccer player. He was recruited to play on a top college team, and his team held the #1 collegiate ranking while he was enrolled. After graduating from college, he went on to play for a professional team based out of Charleston, South Carolina. And he ended up playing professionally for a few years when he decided that he was ready to transition to the corporate world, and ended up getting a job for a large medical sales company based out of Atlanta. Anthony was 28 years old, and other than some common aches and pains that come from being a professional athlete, he couldn't have been healthier. Not long after he started his new role, he began to develop some fatigue and noticed a non-painful swelling in the lymph nodes on his neck. It wasn't long before Anthony's doctor diagnosed him with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, Anthony's a fighter, and he's in great shape, which for his specific type of lymphoma helps a great deal in allowing someone to beat the cancer. But the medical sales world is cutthroat, and you have to grind all day, every day to help keep the hospitals and doctors happy and interested. Not being able to work and spending a year of his time fighting the cancer was going to set him back. Thankfully, Anthony had disability insurance through his employer, as well as a small supplemental plan purchased to cover the income gap that exists because employer-paid benefits are taxable to the employee. Without this coverage, Anthony would have had medical bills piling up and no clear path forward. The story has a happy ending because Anthony made a full recovery and has been in remission for 8 years. He's killing it in life. He's got 2 sons and a growing family and an awesome job that he loves doing. But he will be the first one to tell you how important it was for him to be able to focus on recovery and not have to worry about where the money was going to be coming from. Sickness plays no favorites. And since we don't have a crystal ball, we have to be prepared for anything. Let Anthony's story be an example that the best time for your clients to buy income protection was yesterday. Income protection is one of the only health insurance products in the marketplace that has a guaranteed level premium. How smart will they look buying coverage while they're young and healthy before age and medical history impacts their insurability? But what about you? In addition to the value that it brings to your clients, what can income protection mean to your bottom line? The beauty of this conversation is by simply bringing it up to your clients, you're separating yourself from the industry. One of the biggest challenges the Plus Group faces is the average age of the insurance producer steadily increasing year over year. With this population growing and more people either living paycheck to paycheck or simply relying on their income to get by, the opportunity is limitless. But what does selling income protection mean to your practice? In an insurance landscape where advisors are scrambling to keep business from turning over due to a number of different factors, income protection is a breath of fresh air. Disability insurance is incredibly sticky, and the nature of the underwriting process makes it hard to replace as people get older and their health changes. The renewals on disability insurance start at 5% for most white-collar business and can increase up to 15 to 20% depending on your production levels. Any business you write this year can grow with your client's income by way of increase options, and that growth will generate new first-year commissions and renewals. I'd like to show you what this can look like as a way to augment your income or even become your primary focus. This first chart shows that $10,000 of annual disability insurance sales can generate what this can generate in commissions. Looking at the total payments column, you can see how selling 2 to 3 DI plans in a year can generate nice commission. Disability insurance has a renewal commission structure that is unique in the health insurance market as well. Substantial renewal commissions can help level off the valleys of down years and continue to grow as you do more business. Bonus commissions are available when producers are able to get to certain sales levels. This example shows additional revenue generated from reaching $25,000 in new first-year premium. First-year premium combined with renewal commissions, combined with bonuses based upon production, start to really drive up the total payouts column. Finally, I want to show you what type of income can be generated yearly for someone who understands why this product is so important and makes a career selling this protection. This isn't a pie-in-the-sky goal here either. Averaging 3 disability insurance policies placed a month with an average premium of about $2,500 annual or $210 monthly, you can reach $100,000 in new first-year sales. I encourage everyone on this call to reach out to your Plus Group offices to learn how you can qualify for these bonus programs or to track your progress and see how you can obtain your goals. I know I'd like to see $8.9 million over the next 20 years in production for each and every single one of you producers on this call. So at the beginning, I told you about my journey to the Plus Group. But what I didn't tell you about is my why. My why is my everything. My why is my family. My wife, Ainsley, my 3-year-old son, Brooks, and my 8-month-old son, Cormac, are the reason I own income protection. Now, when I bought a disability policy a decade ago, I didn't have the growing family that I do now, but I knew that my income was going to be a major factor in getting my wife and I to a place where we could reach our goals. I would encourage you to ask yourself who in your life relies on you bringing home the bacon, and consider making sure you take the time to update your own income protection so you can achieve those goals. There are discounts available for insurance professionals when they buy coverage on themselves, all the way up to 10% off your own personal policy. So now is the time to update your own income protection plan, save a little bit of money as well. Please reach out to your Plus Group office to start the conversation and to figure out the best way to help you market to your new relationships or uncover low-hanging fruit in your existing book of business. We're going to talk later today about the markets that are excellent opportunities, as well as the products available to fuel the pain points for individuals and business owners. But it all starts with you buying into the need for this invaluable product and having the confidence to take the next step. Up next, I'm really excited for our next session, a panel of experts discussing topics like how to prospect, how to uncover opportunity, and how to mine your current book of business, all while answering the question, who needs income protection? We're going to take a quick 5-minute break and get set up for the second session. We're going to start right at 11:30 Eastern, and you'll be able to rejoin with the same link, or you can stay in this presentation and we'll get started shortly. Thank you, guys.
All right, I will be the one to hop on here. We still have a couple minutes here before panel two or session two gets kicked off. A couple housekeeping things. Well, first off, I'm Robert Clark with Plus Group Southern California, or Plus Group Dallas, but I'm in Southern California, thanks to our current remote world. For all the attendees, I want to remind you that there's a chat box feature on this webinar. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them in the chat box. We are monitoring it at all times, and we would love to address any specific questions that you have as it relates to disability income sales or prospecting or need in some of our upcoming sessions. So what you are about to see for session two is going to be a little bit different than Brett's session, and that is going to be a panel. So we have a panel of DI experts all around the United States, which is very exciting, all next gen DI experts. And then panel three, or session three, excuse me, is going to be a similar fireside chat with a few more next gen DI experts on how to sell disability insurance. So make sure you're paying attention to the chat. If you do have questions or comments, throw them in there. Charlie, where in Southern California am I? You're moving to San Diego next year. I'm jealous. I'll come with you. I'm about 30 minutes north of Los Angeles in a town called Santa Clarita. We were starting the party early. We were already on fire yesterday. So, and I mean that literally for those who don't live in a fire state, it happens quite often. So yeah. Let's see, we are at 8:30, so let's get this session started. I want to introduce our panelists for session two. We have Matt Jackson out of Michigan, and we have Kurt Brandmeier out of the beautiful state of Tennessee. Look at that background. There's definitely a filter going on Kurt's background, I think. And then last and definitely not least, we have Zach Phillips out of Pennsylvania. Gentlemen, thank you so much for hopping on the session with us. I'm excited to dive right into it. Matt, I'm going to start with you, out of Detroit, Michigan. Let's just lay the foundation. How would you define the ideal prospect for income protection or disability insurance?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Rob. Once again, Matt Jackson of IRA Brokerage Plus Group office here in Michigan. And I'm of the opinion that I'm sure the rest of our Plus Group offices are, that everybody needs disability insurance. It's really a conversation to be bringing up with every single client, as Brett mentioned in his presentation. And so I guess to preface that, there are some clients and prospects that are a little bit better for this product than others. So what exactly makes a good prospect? I would say there are three major criteria to focus on that are really have to do with underwriting. So to start, we've got age, income, and occupation. Why don't I start with age? As disability insurance covers you during your working years up until retirement. And retirement is defined typically by these insurance companies as age 65 or 67. And the cost of coverage is going to increase as you get older. So keep in mind, if you've got a 30-year-old client, they have potentially 30 plus years of income to insure. That could be millions of dollars. And not only this, those young clients are not likely to stay healthy as they get older. Maybe some of them will, some of them won't. But as they age, typically not very common that you get healthier with age. So if I had to pick really a sweet spot as, who's the ideal prospect, I would say look at age first. The younger, the better, probably between age 25 and 55. Now, I mentioned this industry area because these clients are going to be really stepping into their professions, or they're going to be established in their respective industries. Now, the next up I would like to talk about is income. Income is uniquely important to disability insurance. And after all, we are insuring your paycheck. So with that, it's a good way to start prospecting. And let's keep in mind, we're here to get absolutely everybody coverage. And we can start with clients that are making about $25,000 a year or more. These benefits are rich from disability. And so those premiums can be significant. So if I had to, again, pick a sweet spot for prospecting, I would say about $80,000 a year or more as annual income is really going to be a great prospect and make some of those premiums a little bit less daunting, more approachable. Now, is your client in an early stage of their career? This is pretty common kind of feedback that I get. They're not anywhere near their earning potential. Honestly, that's great, as you should really be focusing on giving these clients coverage when they're young, they're healthy. All of our Plus Group offices offer riders that will help you to ensure that increase in income for your prospects by simply going through a couple page application and presenting financial documentation, tax returns to really clarify how much coverage they can get and fulfill that amount that they really need, get them better covered. So next up, I do want to mention occupation. Occupation is easily the least restrictive category that we're going to run into here. We can cover just about any occupation. Just to give some examples, CEOs, marketing professionals, we've got contractors, carpenters, athletes, naturally doctors as well. Some good rule of thumb when you're looking at clients is to keep in mind that you've got, clients that have more manual occupations are going to have higher premiums than less manual. And that's just keeping outside any other outside factors. Now, when it comes to occupation, just a good example of that, we've got the doctor market. Everybody thinks of that when they think of disability. Let's think of a surgeon, general surgeon, or thoracic surgeon, and a radiologist. So let's think a diagnostic radiologist. This thoracic surgeon or general surgeon is going to have a lot more hands-on physical duties as far as the physician market goes. That radiologist, the diagnostic radiologist, is going to be non-invasive. They're going to be looking at imaging. So naturally, their premiums will be lower than that of the surgeon. Now, something also to add, if you're unclear on your occupation, don't hesitate to ask your client a couple more questions to really clarify that for your Plus Group office, get them the best estimate possible. Now, I want to wrap this answer up after mentioning those three categories, but I would be doing a massive disservice if I did not mention at least a little bit of health underwriting. You'll see this in life insurance, and there might be some different focuses between the two types of coverage, but I would say that you ask a couple questions and you're going to really get the ball rolling in this space. First question I ask, are you currently taking any medications? If so, what for? After that, I would ask, have you had recently any surgery? Do you have upcoming surgery scheduled? And then lastly, have you been hospitalized in the last 5 to 10 years? Those are just some simple questions that are really going to get the ball rolling, help you from going in circles with your client that may not be able to, expand on what they have going on health-wise. And at the end of the day, you're saving everybody time by getting the most accurate estimate. Now, just to summarize, best prospects are young and healthy, making $80,000 or more a year. And again, just ask questions about occupation, health, dig in there. And as far as the Plus Group, reach out to us after you've got that, and we're going to help get those clients covered.
Yeah, great points, Matt. And I love those questions. Kurt, I'm going to pivot over your way because I know you're the pivoting king. So if I'm a financial advisor, and based on what Matt just told me, I can identify a couple people who would make great clients for disability insurance. How am I pivoting that conversation from investments or financial planning over to income protection and disability insurance?
Thank you, Robert. Again, Kurt Broadmeyer here with Baker Birdwell Plus Group Nashville. And thank you to everyone joining in on the call today. But before I share with you a few ideas on how to pivot the conversation, I always start with asking the financial advisor if they have a disability policy on themselves. There is no better way to appreciate and understand the financial products you sell than to own a policy on yourself. It's hard to sell something you don't believe in. Now, today, financial advisors create plans designed to help you reach your life and financial goals. But what is the one common thing that every financial plan has in common? They all require income to work. So before you, as the advisor, can start building the financial plan for your client's future, You must make sure that your client's income will continue even if they get sick or hurt and can't work. Now, we all know the best financial plan in the world is only as good as your income. And without it, your financial plan could fall apart. So I want you to think about a bridge for a second and how it is being supported. Without the support from other structures, that bridge would most likely fall apart. Now think about your financial plan the same way. Each part of your financial plan is supported by your ability to work and earn an income. And without protecting it with disability insurance, your financial plan could fall apart. Only 48% of American adults indicate they have enough savings to cover 3 months of living expenses or longer without earning an income. But now that you have initiated the conversation and have your client thinking about the importance of protecting their income, you begin establishing the need. And you do that by simply asking them questions. What would happen to your lifestyle if your paycheck stopped tomorrow and you become unable to work? Do you have a plan B? Or can you list 3 to 5 people that would help pay your bills for 6 months, a year, or possibly longer? Imagine your client being a salesperson, having a stroke and no longer being able to speak. Or imagine your client being in real estate. What would happen if they couldn't show homes to their clients anymore due to a serious back injury? Or does your client have a working spouse who makes enough money to cover your income loss? Or better yet, imagine going home tonight and telling your spouse that your pay was reduced by 40% for the rest of your career. How would that conversation go? Probably not so well, but that could easily happen if you become disabled with a group long-term disability policy through your employer. So by educating your client on the need for income protection and showing them how you can supplement their group coverage with individual coverage, that will provide your clients with the maximum protection that they need, and it gives them peace of mind knowing that in the event they become disabled, their paycheck will not stop. Now, sometimes it can be difficult to get your clients to seriously consider being disabled. So another great way of getting into that DI conversation is to simply ask them if they normally take a vacation. Usually they do for a week, but then you ask them if they ever take a 3-month vacation. They will usually say, of course not. And you simply ask them why. The answer you'll probably get is my business would fall apart or I just can't afford it. But by having that simple conversation with them, you have shown them the importance of them working and their income and have initiated the DI conversation. Now, disability insurance must be sold. And as the financial advisor, you have to be willing to get out and have the conversation with your clients and educate them on the importance of protecting their income. This is an activity business. And at the end of the day, if you don't have the conversation with your client, somebody else will, and then they will become somebody else's client. Or even worse, you will be explaining to your disabled client why you never brought up income protection. No one likes to think about being sick or hurt and not working. But as a financial advisor, you must be willing to help your clients consider those unpleasant scenarios of not being able to work. And remember, the only person who can take care of you if you become disabled is the healthy person you are today. Life is unpredictable and many situations occur without warning. So it is important to get out and educate your clients on the importance of protecting their income.
Yeah, that's huge, Kurt. And not to take away from Zach's thunder, but Kurt alluded to it already. Zach, I know that you spend so much time and effort and energy really driving that message of who the absolute best client is for disability insurance. Can you explain exactly what you mean by that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Robert. In my opinion, the best and most important prospect is yourself. First of all, you get a policy on yourself. You get to learn the product, learn the general structure of what's going on base policy with a disability policy. You also get a handle on the definitions, both of disability and income. You can learn what the riders mean and where they're appropriate to add or perhaps remove if the case may warrant it. And you also get a handle on what the difference is between the different carriers that we offer. You also get to learn the process of disability. So from application until issue, you get a handle on what the ins and outs are, whether you can submit paper or electronic, you can do both, what the DI underwriting looks like. And just so you know, disability underwriting is different from all the other underwriting that you've probably seen. Life underwriting, long-term care underwriting, and fixed annuity underwriting. It's all different. So by going through it yourself, you're giving yourself the opportunity to experience it first and be able to address any of your client's concerns with how the process is going to go, and position yourself so that you don't run into a situation where the client is compromised because of the way that the process went. You also get a good idea on what the pricing is. So you can take that when you're developing the quotes for your clients. Hey, this rider might be a bit too expensive, but this one isn't. I'll add this one, and build the quote the way. And I've really talked all about how it benefits the clients that you're buying a DI policy on yourself, but don't lose sight of the fact that it benefits you as well. First off, with most carriers, they have a producer bonus. So you get discounted premiums just for writing a policy on yourself. Also, all the agents get commission when they write a disability policy, and that does include your policies. What you can do is use your commission to help offset some of those premiums from your disability policy. And the biggest thing, I think, is you're getting important foundational coverage for yourself. If you become disabled, you now have coverage in force to protect yourself and protect your income. I just think it's the best and most important prospect is yourself. It's the best client that you can ever have.
Yeah, I love that, Zach, and so spot on. Now, Matt, we're gonna circle back and headed your way with this one. Business owners are such a common market for so many advisors out there, and we hear about them all the time in the disability insurance world. And I would beg to just assume that it's because they have so many risks and so many exposures if they were to become, sick or hurt. Now, can you help us understand, if someone has a business owner, client, or prospect, how do we know if they need disability insurance and what type of disability insurance might be best for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question, Rob. And want to emphasize, I know it's been said a couple times, but love the fact getting coverage on yourself is a really great way to understand what you're doing. And business owners, man, the need for disability with business owners runs deep. They understand the product. It's important to them as they know the value of their business. And I don't think there's really a better group to get prospecting with. So on the individual level, this makes sense because, they want to keep the lights on. They want to maintain what they've built, keep everything going. Beyond that, as you alluded to, there are many different applications in the business space for disability. To mention a few or go through the three main products, let me start with disability buy-sell coverage, which would be coverage for an arrangement between a couple owners that could be a pair to a group of business owners. This is really common in the life insurance space, and so you can really piggyback with that. And there are two options for payouts. You've got monthly benefits available, or you can do a lump sum. Now, another coverage is business overhead expense coverage for incurred costs of the business. So you have you're renting an office or maybe a studio, or you're renting equipment, and you could also use it to cover employee salaries. So that's another great coverage. Another one the third one that I want to mention is the business loan protection coverage. So if you have a client buying a business and they've got a loan taken out, this is for them. If your client is a business owner, they're a prospect in general, but any of these circumstances come up and you've got an even better prospect. Now, I want to touch a bit on, I mentioned the loan protection, as I think this is an important subject to grasp, and it's a market ready for the taking. In our current workforce, we have a lot of baby boomers, and they are retiring. They are selling their businesses to younger owners and really just moving on. And so with that, there's a lot of opportunity to cover that transition. So you've got plenty of different types of businesses. I mean, business space, general business, law practices, veterinary clinics. There are so many applications. And so I think this is an area, because of the workforce, that really is there for the taking and something to focus on. I did mention earlier the kind of age bracket when prospecting. When it comes to business owners, I would be a little bit more lenient. So I don't want to talk too much more, but to just summarize what I think is good about business owners, they understand the risk. And so on the individual end, you've got a prospect up front. Beyond that, you've got so many different applications they have rental expenses, they've got a buy-sell agreement, or they've got a loan to protect. They're buying a business. You have an opportunity to help these clients in an even more comprehensive way.
Yeah, you nailed it, Matt. Those are some great points, and all things outside of just personal income replacement. I love that. Kurt, I think a lot of the value that you can bring here is again, pivoting this conversation of, okay, maybe we've identified a couple prospects. How do I really, start the conversation around disability insurance, which is similar to what Brett had touched on in his first session. And I know you work with several folks in the property casualty world, and, talk about a completely different wavelength of insurance. Even though we're talking about insurance, the conversation is different, when we're talking about home and auto versus protecting the income earner. So help us understand a little bit about how you're helping P&C agents or property casualty agents pivot that conversation to disability insurance.
Thanks, Robert. Matt and Zach have given some really great points, but as I mentioned before, I always start the conversation, no matter who I'm working with or talking to, if they have income protection on themselves. We've all said it today, it's hard to sell something you don't believe in. Do you think Grant Cardone would be out promoting his product 10X all over social media if he didn't believe in it? Probably not. But if you know anything about Grant Cardone and 10X, his passion is to help you grow your business and be successful. Just like myself and the rest of the members of the Plus Group, we are passionate when it comes to disability insurance and educating you and your clients on the protection that they need. And like you said, Robert, today I spend a lot of time educating and motivating insurance agents and property and casualty agents on how to cross-sell DI to their existing clients. Now, these clients of theirs, they already trust them with their home and auto, so why not offer them income protection as well? Statistics show that 48% of all home foreclosures are the result of disability, and that you have a greater chance of becoming disabled than you do your house catching fire. But we all know that if statistics mattered, we would have a line out our doors of people wanting disability insurance. Now, as the insurance agent or the property and casualty agent or the financial advisor, it is important to not lose sight of the risk your clients take without disability insurance or income protection, as I like to call it. Now, I want you to think about disability insurance or income protection as a safe filled with money. Now, that safe of money is going to give you and your clients peace of mind that in the event you become disabled, your family will never go hungry, your family will continue to have a roof over their head, and you will be able to adequately fund retirement plans and your children's education, just to name a few. But now let's discuss how to bring up the conversation when talking with your existing clients. Now, we all know your homeowner's insurance protects where you live, your auto insurance protects what you drive, but what plan do you have in place today that is protecting that big bag of money that is coming in every week that makes all these things possible? Now, when calling on your clients to update them on their home or auto policies, you can simply ask them, if you had a piece of equipment that produced $100,000 a year, would you insure it? A lot of times your client will probably look at you like you're crazy and say something like, of course I would. That's when you come in and say, well, you are that piece of equipment, and shouldn't you consider insuring yourself? Life doesn't stop when a disability strikes and you become disabled and unable to work. Bills still continue to come in every month and pile up. And be sure to point out as well that 90% of disabilities are illness related, and almost half of American adults indicate they can't pay an unexpected $400 bill without having to take out a loan or sell something to do so. Now, Robert, the last idea I want to share today is one that I share with all my insurance agents and property casualty agents, and it's how to incorporate the MUG plan into the conversation and how you can use this at the conclusion of every single sale. Now, for those of you that don't know, MUG is an acronym for mortgage, utilities, and groceries. Now, when you're delivering the home and auto proposals or whatever line of business you're selling, at the end of the appointment, you simply ask your client, by the way, who takes care of your income protection? Now, a lot of times you may get something like, I don't know what you mean. That's when you come in and say, if you became disabled today and couldn't work, which of your insurance plans are going to kick in to pay for your mortgage, utilities, and your groceries? Now, the client will probably say, I don't think I have anyone that would pay me. That's when you show them the MUG plan. The MUG plan is a very affordable disability insurance plan that's going to provide you a monthly income to pay for your mortgage, utilities, and your groceries if you become disabled today. Now, all I need to know is how much you spend each month on these three expenses so I can find you the best income protection plan that will make sure that all these expenses are covered in the event you are unable to work. It's a simple conversation and gets your client thinking about the importance of their income. Now, as the agent and or advisor, you don't need to worry about having all the answers. Establish the need, initiate the conversation, and then reach out to a member from your Plus Group office, and we will provide you with everything you need to be the expert for your client. We love the conversation and love educating you and your clients on the importance of protecting their income with disability insurance. And the last thing I want to leave you with is when you help people do what they need to do, when you help your clients protect themselves, and when you care about your clients and think about their needs, you can't help but grow your business.
Boom. I love it. And that MUG plan is so key and so critical. So if you weren't paying attention there, make sure you go back in the recording. But that is the best way to sell disability insurance, especially to a price conscious client. So great points, Kurt. Zach, bring us home because you've, also been the king of a very specific market. We have not touched on yet this entire panel or either session 1 or session 2. You have done extensive work in the blue collar and middle income markets. Tell us a little bit about how you're defining or identifying prospects in those markets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Robert. I think the best way to describe the middle income market is underserved. I think a lot of advisors lose track of the fact that plumbers and electricians need DI just as much as lawyers and doctors. I know that the middle income market can be kind of tough to play in. And honestly, I think that's due to more of a lackadaisical approach by the agents than anything else. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an email or a phone call saying, nah, just quote max benefits to age 67, just add all the riders and we'll sell it from there. By approaching your client that way, you're imprinting them with a very high premium that they might not even be comfortable with. It might not even be a plan that they would even consider adding, even if price were not a issue. So what you can do is show your client a couple different options. Don't be afraid to reduce the benefits a little bit. 5 or a 10-year benefit period may be totally appropriate as opposed to an age 67 benefit period. As a matter of fact, I was reading the other day that the average DI claim is about 2.5 years. So a 5-year claim or a 5-year benefit period would absolutely fit right in there. So don't be afraid. Reduction of benefit doesn't necessarily mean reduction in the quality of the plan. It just means positioning the plan in the right way to get the client to accept the policy and actually consider and continue the conversation. The other thing that I do whenever I'm quoting any client, but especially a client in the middle income market, is use the rule of 2%. Basically, it says if the client is not likely to spend more than 2% of their annual income on DI products. So I always like to show at least one quote there, start there, and then you have the opportunity to either build it up a little bit more with more robust benefits or bring the premiums down by reducing the benefits a little bit, but you can still keep the conversation going. Promise you, if you just send out max benefits to age 67 to all your clients, you're never going to see an email back in your inbox. The other way that you can position the sale is using the MUG idea from Kurt. That is the best way to do it. Mortgage, utilities, groceries. And I've even had it with a couple of clients that we get through the MUG plan and they see the premiums and everything. And then they say, well, can I put my truck payment on there too? And that's exactly the type of conversation you want to have, because the answer is yes, we can cover that. And you only got there by positioning it in a way and approaching your client in a way that spoke to them rather than just kind of throwing something out at them. You got to remember too that something is better than nothing. DI is never wasn't designed to replace 100% of your income. They do want you to go back to work eventually if you can. So don't be afraid to, like I said, reduce benefits, show a 2%, and use the MUG plan. The other stumbling block I think we fall into with specifically the middle income market is thinking that workers' compensation and Social Security are going to be adequate coverage and we don't need anything else. For one, Social Security, I think it takes about a year just for you to hear back if you got benefits, let alone to receive the benefits. So if it's not extremely long-term situation, that probably isn't going to come into play. The other side of things, workers' compensation. Obviously, if you're not disabled at work, it doesn't help you. For example, I go deer hunting every year with a group of guys up here in Pennsylvania, and go up there with this one guy. He's a big, strong guy, works construction. One of those guys who you would never expect to become disabled. Never got sick. His opinion was if he was ever going to get disabled, it was by driving the bulldozer and the backhoe at work, and from nothing else. Well, it turns out he has developed now cancer and he's not able to work. So even a small disability policy would have really, really helped him out, because obviously he wasn't disabled at work, so workers' comp didn't pay out. The last point that I wanted to mention about the middle income and blue collar markets is don't forget that blue collar, gray collar, middle income, they are still business owners. So all the thoughts and ideas and products that Matt mentioned, you can absolutely take to your business owners. Again, I go back to the plumbers and electricians need DI just as much as lawyers and doctors, and it goes double for blue and gray collar business owners.
Yeah, great points, Matt. And I love that story that you mentioned there. That's actually such a critical piece to the income protection conversation. So, gentlemen, we are short on time. Matt Jackson, thank you so much. Kurt Brandmeier, thank you again. And Zach Phillips, thanks for taking it home. That was a great session. I know our attendees got a lot of value out of that. I've been watching the chat. We are going to go straight into our third and final panel here. So I'm going to invite up onto the stage Matt Reardon and Brett O'Brien. There we go. We got some beautiful faces. For this last third and final session, we are really going to focus on how do we sell income protection, or as you may more commonly know it, disability insurance. Now, the reason we have Brett O'Brien and Matt Reardon here is because they're two of the best, just like all of our next gen panelists and attendees from this event. So Matt, why don't you lead us off here? I want to know a little bit about, yes, how do we sell DI, but I want to know your backstory of how you got involved in DI and how you found the conviction of why DI is so important.
That's a great question, Robert, and what a great panel so far and session. Thank you so much, Brett, for really spearheading this. You've been a champion for us over the last couple of months. My guy, and Robert, you're a phenomenal moderator, man. Keep it up. Appreciate it. When I think back about my journey in insurance, it always goes back to my upbringing, and it's kind of a personal story, and we all have them. Brett, thank you so much for sharing earlier. But, I grew up in a family of 9, and I had a brother that was developmentally disabled, and he had a lot of severe health issues. And I took care of him a lot of my formative years, and I saw basically the effect that it had on him and the effect that it had on my family. And it wasn't just the physical side, it was the emotional side. And when I look back on it and I think about why I'm so passionate about disability insurance, is because I've experienced morbidity firsthand. Disability insurance obviously is different than what happened to my brother. The conversation is different, and he was developmentally disabled, but there's a lot of parallels there. And the conviction I have really comes from that. I love my brother. He was an amazing person, and he changed my life forever. So when I got out of college, I was working as a landscaper. I love hard work. I was really enjoying it, and I was like, this is my career path. I eventually fell in love with it, and I had a buddy that told me about this guy, George Davis. And he's like, Matt, like you really could use a mentor. You could really use someone that can guide you in your working career, you know? And I was like, great, I'm excited to meet him. We had a call. It was probably a 15, 20-minute conversation. He explained what we did at Secura. And I was just so excited to get an opportunity. I can't thank him enough. And he has really been a phenomenal mentor, friend, coach in my 10 years at Secura. So I started as an intern. I finally understood what we did. And like I said, my passion and my conviction came from my understanding of how important this product could be to families and to people. And it's really never gone away. So I started as an intern, worked into an account management. Now over the last 2 years, I've been vice president of operations here, focusing more on making our business more effective and efficient and just scaling it. But I love disability insurance. I love talking about how to position it and how to sell it. So excited to be here. And Brett, you did a great job earlier explaining your why and need, but I think we should hear from our good buddy, Robert Clark. I know he's got a heck of a story and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Matt. And I love that connection that you have to, you know, taking care of somebody who wasn't 100%. It's one of those things. And actually, let me take a step back. I didn't properly introduce you, Matt Reardon. I won't share your nickname here. I'll let our attendees figure it out on their own. But Matt Reardon is joining us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, our Plus Group office out there. So thank you again, Matt. But what I was going to say is, you know, this just happened again yesterday. People are like, oh, what do you do for work? And when they asked me, I said, I'm a disability insurance specialist. And, you know, people could not be less interested after you tell them that. But what I usually follow up with, you know, they'll give you some BS like, oh, that's interesting. And I usually say, it's really not, but I appreciate that. The reason I do it is because my dad battled cancer for 20 years and I grew up on a disability insurance benefit. So it's kind of a passion project. As soon as I say that, it wakes people up. They're like, oh man. And as soon as I say that, they're thinking, man, my aunt had cancer, or I know my sister had cancer, or, you know, it just starts getting them thinking about, wait a second, I know some people that have gone through similar situations like that. This is more relevant, you know, than just disability insurance. So I love that you have that story. I encourage our attendees to think of, you know, any stories or anything that's close to home or close to their hearts where a disability has impacted a friend or family member. So I love that. Brett, I'm going to come your way. You know, your first session was awesome. And I think you even touched on it a little bit, but I'm just going to hit you with this blanket question. How do you sell disability insurance?
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing your stories. Personal stories, I think, are the backbone of the disability conversation. So highly recommend, you know, everybody develop their own story and really personalize their, you know, their conversation with their clients. But to your question, I think there's a really broad shotgun approach you can take to this. Personally, you know, I think the cold calling and the reaching out to people you don't know and having this conversation is going the way of the dinosaur. I think that with the information that we have at our fingertips, I kind of mentioned how somebody can log online and have access to your whole profile. They can see, you know, what you were doing 2 years ago, 5 years ago, and know what you're into these days. The people that you're connecting with are going to be your best opportunity to have these conversations. So you really want to look at your centers of influence. So if I were a new disability producer, I would look at what I love to do and what I'm passionate about, you know, in my life. If you know, I have a regular group of golf friends that I like to golf with. That's an opportunity for me to have a conversation with friends where they're not going to be saying no immediately. They're going to be willing to listen to my conversation. Some of the things advisors that we work with do is they join local chambers of commerce. They get in touch with organizations that take volunteers and need volunteer work because that's what they're passionate about. I think these centers of influences are things that we can really set up to set ourselves up for success. You know, NAFA is an excellent organization. We have a large chapter here in Atlanta, and NAFA is all over the country. You're really plugging into other insurance professionals and networking that way as well, because there are advisors out there that, you know, aren't having this conversation with their clients, and you as an advisor can develop that trusted relationship, create referrals for yourself, and go into a type of model that I know Matt, I know all these Plus Group offices are using all over the country to help their advisors really sell insurance products. It's not just a Amazon, go read the reviews, buy a product sale anymore. It's a maybe we need help taking application. Maybe we need to have a conversation with the client on behalf of the advisor. All of these Plus Group offices that we work with, that you will work with, are fully equipped to be able to have these conversations and help you out. Matt, I was thinking maybe you could jump in and tell us a little bit more about the different models of, distribution sales that the Plus Group brings to the table.
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. I think, when I look at the different distribution models we have the classical brokerage where you can come and get top level service, expertise that everyone can expect in the brokerage industry. I would say I think the Plus Group is a touch above the rest. We really, our attention to detail, our love of the product is second to none. And I got results recently. I think we were about 20% of the total production in the country. So, I think that speaks to the level of intentionality we have and success that we have. And I think my gut's telling me a lot of that is coming from what we would call classical brokerage. But over time, what we're seeing as a major growth area is more where we call like the exclusive or broker's broker model, where you can actually partner along an advisor and guide them through the process. And whatever that split arrangement is or fee, you can determine. Every Plus Group office has a different system. Ours is pretty simple. We can do a fee if that's what they're looking for, one payment, that's perfectly fair. Another option that we offer, and I know the Plus Group offers, is just taking the application and seeing it through underwriting. Typically, that's 10 or 15% of the total compensation. That's nothing. It's pennies on the dollar when you have an expert taking the app, explaining the concepts, handling any objections that are coming in last minute, and that's nothing. Another option that we have that, again, our firm splits may be different, is 25%. The only difference there is we're taking the application, seeing it all the way through underwriting, but we're also positioning it. And the difference is they have to establish the need on the front end, right? And they have to explain the concept and then gather information. And then our dedicated licensed internal expert has a conversation. And the last one that we offer is just a direct client handoff. It's easy. Give me a name. Here's a good list of prospects. I'll go have a conversation. And that's typically 50% of the compensation. With our office, I know every office has different setups, but we're seeing major growth in the exclusive and concierge areas of our business, and I highly recommend advisors that, everyone has done such a good job in the session explaining the need. If you don't know the need after the session, I don't know what to tell you. I can also understand everyone has different priorities. Everyone has different expectations of their day. So reach out, learn more about these exclusive services, and I guarantee you, your clients will be better served.
Yeah, I love that, Matt. That's, for at least financial advisors specifically, I see so many, bringing on junior advisors to start, taking over some of their book or helping them with smaller clients. The broker's broker model is very similar to having a junior advisor. Have that dedicated person in your office, or if you're on this call and not tied to a specific product line and you really want to specialize and niche yourself, think about being a broker's broker and building that relationship of trust with certain financial advisors where all you do is their client's income protection. And one of the most important things, like you said, Matt, if you don't know how to establish the need after our last hour of conversation, then maybe you've been a little light on listening. The one commentary I would add to what's already been laid out today is that when it comes to income protection, we are not just protecting someone's income for 1 year. So if they earn $200,000 a year, we're not just protecting $200,000. What we really need to look at is that individual's career earnings. So if they're 35 and they're going to retire at 65 and they earn $100,000 per year, we're not insuring $100,000. We're insuring $3 million. And so I think talking about it in that way, we're going to talk about some of the objections that we hear in the disability insurance or income protection world. And I think as we kind of change the paradigm of how we talk about it and establish that need, we're going to address a lot of those objections in advance. So Brett, coming back your way on the topic of objections, I guess I'll let you just tee this one up yourself. What is a common objection that you hear from clients, and how do you help advisors address that?
Yeah, I think we even had this come up in the chat box, but one of the biggest objections is this thing costs too much. Insurance is it's designed for a specific purpose, and actuaries have jobs because they're able to figure out the math and the statistics behind the likelihood of somebody becoming, dying, whether it be mortality or morbidity, becoming disabled, and the products are priced appropriately to be able to reflect that risk. It's our job as advisors to make sure what the second session really dived into, which was design a specific plan for each specific client. So if you're going to show a Cadillac to every client, not every client's going to walk out of the car lot with a Cadillac. There are people that are going to want a car that's going to be a hybrid, or a car that's going to get them just from point A to point B. And it's our job as advisors to really have that conversation. I go back to my first session. I think the conversation is the most important part. You're going to learn quickly if your client is, going to be someone who's more likely to want a fully comprehensive risk protection portfolio, or if they're going to want something that's just going to, meet the need for getting you through, a tough time, whether it be for 6 months, 12 months, or a couple years. And these disability insurance products have multiple benefit periods where we can do, anywhere from as short as 2 years to 5 years, 10 years, to age 65, 67, and even 70 in some cases. So we've got multiple levels of flexibility there, levers we can pull to really design a plan to get over that it costs too much conversation. Establishing the need on the front end is going to reduce some of those objections from a cost perspective, but that conversation is going to come up at every step of the process, because people are going to be looking for ways to spend that money on something else. Maybe they want to do something to their home, or they want to go on a trip. There's other things that are a lot more sexy to spend that money on than insurance, but because we don't have that crystal ball, we have to make sure we put together a plan that somebody's going to be willing to say yes to at the end of the day.
That's very well said. I completely agree with you. And I think there's two quotes that I think about a lot when I get this objection. Is one, in the absence of value, price is king, right? You nailed it, right? You need to know your customer. You need to know what they purchased before. And Robert, I love what you said. We're always constantly comparing annual premiums to monthly benefits. Why are we doing that to ourselves? Let's look at the total number and what the real risk is, right? And then you nailed it too, Brett. I mean, you got to be confident to adjust strategies based upon needs, like you said, different levers. And the thing that I always reflect on when I have an advisor that won't sell a 5-year benefit period is that, the best policy a client can have is the one they own at claim time, right? Let's not leave a conversation and not have a starter policy. Let's at least have a plan. We can all agree whether or not it's a good plan, but at least it's a plan. And I think that's the thing that's really important. And then, you got to build into your process establishing a budget. At some point after you've done a needs analysis, after you've discussed their priorities, you got to bring up the budget. It's just so pivotal to the discussion. And it can be just as easy as, look, understanding we've agreed that there's going to be an impact, right? If I come back to you with a solution that's going to solve this issue for $100 a month, would you move forward? And then be quiet. They're going to tell you yes or no. And don't use the annual premium number. Use the monthly number. Keep the conversation going. Make sure that they're focusing on the why, the protection and the need and the actual risk. So I think all your points were great, Brett. And Robert, do you have anything to add to that? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that most of the time when we hear an objection and the advisor isn't sure how to respond, I think that more just speaks to the lack of conviction that the advisor really has about how critical income really is to the financial plan or anything else that they're protecting. When you look at asset for asset, the value of somebody's house versus the value of their income, the income is going to be astronomically more than the house or any other asset on that balance sheet. And the same goes for if they're reviewing a financial plan. What good is that financial plan if you only have 1 or 2 years of income to fund it? And so I think anytime that you are experiencing objections of, why should I buy this? What does it cover? Do I really need it? Is it going to happen to me? And you're allowing that individual's questions to actually throw you off course. I think that more means that you as the advisor are lacking conviction. And what panel 2 talked about, I think they drove it home, all 3 individuals did, is the importance of buying DI on yourself. Now, maybe you're not in a place where you need disability insurance. A lot of advisors are. I'm actually working with an advisor who's battling cancer right now, and for the last 5 years swore that he did not need disability insurance. Well, in fact, he's proving wrong right now by everything that he's going through, only being in the office 1 day a week, and his clients are struggling with it, and his business is struggling with it. Now his income and the money is not the most important thing, but does it help? Does it help bring in a replacement, or does it help actually create that transition to where he can offload some clients to a partner advisor, so he can make sure the clients are being best served? So there's just so many different ways where income protection is a valuable resource. And I think if you are getting hung up on certain objections, that is the root cause of that is the lack of conviction you have in the importance of disability insurance.
Yeah, I'm playing off that really quick. I know we have a few other objections, but it may just not be the right time for the client too, right, Robert? I mean, I literally just had this happen this week. An attorney that we had a conversation with 6 months ago. Speaking candidly, he's a little obtuse. He it wasn't a great conversation. And that happens, right? You catch him on the wrong day, whatever it may be. He called our office this week. His brother-in-law just had a stroke, had no plan in place, and they're scrambling. And he basically apologized. So things do change. So don't lose your conviction because you got a few no, right? Give people the opportunity to say yes and go on to the next client. Keep giving the message.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because someone says no today doesn't mean they're going to say no tomorrow too. This is not a conversation that's going to just click overnight. I think what they say, it takes 4 or 5 times of us hearing something before it sinks in. So just because somebody said no to you today doesn't mean that they're, not interested or not going to be willing to say yes down the road.
4 or 5. I thought it was 40 or 50, but maybe
probably.
Maybe my parents were just adjusting to me.
Yeah.
Brett, we actually had a question come in on the chat from Charlie, who's been very active in the chat. I appreciate it, Charlie. And I'm coming to you with this one because I know you've talked about it in the past, and especially as we were preparing for this session. But if when a client has group LTD through their employer, and they bring that up in the meeting of, oh, I already have it, it's taken care of. How are you advising advisors to speak on that topic?
Yeah, I love this objection because this is the easiest objection to overcome. Group LTD, everyone on this call is a big fan of group LTD. I think the group LTD plans that are in place, I think benefits are getting cut left and right as employers are shifting their mindsets to, medical, and they're not necessarily thinking about some of these ancillary benefits. I think we're seeing less and less employers offering a really robust group LTD plan. But when somebody says they've got it, that's a green light, in my opinion, because group LTD does a couple things really, really well, and it falls short in a couple other areas. Group LTD spreads the risk among a group of employees that lowers the cost. You're not going to be able to find disability insurance at a lower cost than you will with group LTD coverage. So the base layer, I like to call it the base layer of coverage. It's excellent because you're getting a benefit that's being provided most likely by your employer. Maybe there's some sort of employee buy-in for a portion of it, but you're getting a benefit that's providing that base layer at a low cost. The reason the individual plan makes sense is because when an employer pays for group disability coverage for an employee, the benefits become taxable to the employee. So the employee has to consider that tax implication. Said another way, if you have a $5,000 a month benefit from your employer, you're going to be receiving that benefit on a tax basis. So roughly, $3,400, $3,500 after taxes. So you have to take into account the gap that is created from a taxability standpoint. And that's what the individual protection does, because individual coverage is almost always paid for with after-tax dollars, resulting in a tax-free benefit. So that's kind of the benefit calculation on group LTD that I love. One of the other considerations with group LTD that makes it not as strong as individual is the portability of the product. As somebody entering the workforce, people are changing jobs all the time, starting new businesses, coming up with side hustles. Maybe they've got an Etsy shop, who knows what they're doing, but most people are not staying with their same employer that they started with right out of college. I know very few people that have, in my world. So knowing that your situation is going to change, that you're going to shift from, one employer to another, and you're not going to be able to take that group plan with you, you can lock up your insurability with an individual plan that can either grow or shrink based upon your need for your next employer with your next employer. So if you go from one job to the next job and you need a little bit more coverage on your individual plan, it's designed to do that. If you go from job A to job B and you need a little bit less, it's designed to do that as well. So the portability is huge with an individual plan, and that's really a consideration that the group LTD plan can't provide. Let me see. So the last aspect of group LTD that you need to consider is what benefits are you actually getting. Most group plans are not going to be your Cadillac plan. They're not going to be benefits that are going to be payable to age 67 to age 65 for an own occupation disability definition. So partner with your Plus Group office. If somebody tells you that they have a group LTD plan, say, perfect. Send me a copy of your plan. Ask your HR team, can we get a copy of this? Provide that to your Plus Group office, and every single one of these Plus Group offices is going to be, very in tune with combing through that, looking through the language, and then pointing out the benefit periods, the lengths, the definitions, the features that are involved in that group plan. And then you can then report back to the client and say, here's what we've discovered. This is what we've got. Does it make sense to buy a little extra coverage from an individual perspective to accomplish these goals that we've got set forth?
I love that, Brett. I think you nailed it. I don't know if I have anything to add. It's super helpful, but I do think that the best question to ask is, after they have that, is what is it? What do you have? How much of your income does it cover? And the thing that we talk a lot about in Plus Group and in our office is just diagnosis without examination is malpractice, right? And a prudent person is going to want to review what they have, discuss the deficiencies, and make a decision at the end of that. But ultimately, if you're not reviewing the group booklet and you're not giving your client sound advice, you're not doing your fiduciary responsibility. And it'd be kind of like if Robert asked me, Matt, how do you, what do you drive? And I responded, a car. And Robert didn't say anything else. It doesn't make any sense. You don't know. I didn't give you anything. Like, good job, Matt, you have a car. So ask a few more questions. You don't have to make it. It can be conversational. So well done, Brett. I think you nailed everything there.
Gosh, I love that example, Matt. Tim Berry in the chat pointed out something very important, and I usually talk about this in the employee benefits market. When someone says there's a group LTD product already in place, I almost want to say 100% of the time, but 99.9% of the time, there is always a gap in that group LTD policy. So anytime a client, a one-off individual client says, I have LTD through my employer, know that there's likely gaps. And I'll give you a story because this just happened this week as well. We had a client, the advisor had his client in here and was talking about disability insurance as it related to their financial plan. Same exact conversation. Said, oh, I have that through work. They moved us to W-2 employees and LTD is one of the new benefits. Said, perfect. Send us the LTD booklet and we'll review it and we'll incorporate that into your plan. After reviewing that booklet, the LTD benefit was a 50% income up to $1,000 per month benefit cap. And this is for an individual who makes over $200,000 per year. So we put together exactly, where that minimal LTD benefit comes into play, where California state disability insurance would come into play. And once we communicate that to a client, they're going, okay, hold on, time out. I need to fix this like right away. And so generally it's just that education process. But even if that was a 60% income replacement plan, to $20,000 per month, there's generally limitations in the definition, the own occupation versus any occupation definitions, the portability. There's so many different things that Brett covered that are so true. So Tim, Barry, thank you for pointing that out.
And Robert, one real quick thing, my friend, and I wanted to bring it up because Brett said it, is, we talked about the actuaries pricing this. The funny thing is a lot of times the actuaries pricing the individual product are also pricing the group. Why do you think that there's such a discrepancy? It's not just the law of large numbers. We all know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that all the time. Group LTD policies are designed for the employer, not the employees. So keep that in mind. That's why private disability plans are the only plan you will design that is built for you and not your employer. Gentlemen, do we have anything else? I know we're hitting the top of the half hour here, wrapping up on our next gen DI day. Brett, any other color you want to bring to our conversation today?
Yeah, I just want to finish with saying, thank you for everybody for coming. We at the Plus Group have a wealth of marketing information available to you. So if you're looking to put together a campaign, or if you need help putting together a social media post to just generate awareness through your network, reach out to your Plus Group offices. We all have social media toolkits we can provide to you. There are, plenty of tools out there and resources available. So, don't try to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented. We can just put your name on it and brand it to you and help you have this conversation. We've got a video from Max. We can finish up here with, if you want me to just go ahead and hit play on this, I can do it. Max Schmitz is based out of California, but living in Chicago now, and just welcomed his third child into the mix last week. So his wife, Maddie, just had their third. Oh, Max is with us. Awesome. So we didn't know if Max was going to be able to make it, so we had him record his video. Max, do you want to tee it up for us?
Hey guys. Yeah, thanks for having me today. Wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I literally just ran downstairs again because I heard fire alarms going off, not even exaggerating. But we're doing it live with our third here. So pardon if it looks like I'm on paternity leave. I mean, this is just always such a good reminder. It's our third time doing this, that I can't leave the office for 5 days without seeing an effect in my business. So we're here talking about disability coverage, talking about people recovering for periods of months, if not years. And it's so obvious that there's going to be, a massive disruption when you're battling a serious illness or injury. So just wanted to kind of double down on that before I press play here. And then while I'm doing that, I'm probably going to go shore up my BOE policy and practice what I preach a little bit. But first of all, I just, wouldn't be remiss without saying thank you to you guys. You guys have done an excellent job with this program. Brett, especially. I mean, you guys you've been holding it down, and I would love to give you a virtual round of applause, whatever that means these days, because you deserve all the kudos for that. And thank you guys on the panel as well for doing it and making it happen. This is awesome. All right, cool. So with that, I'm going to try to share this screen. Oops, disabled screen sharing. Maybe you could do that.
I got it for you, man.
Okay, cool. Appreciate you.
Give me 2 seconds here.
Sweet.
Did the fire alarms turn off, Max?
Yeah, there was a button on those that you just press, but I had to do it. So,
all right, I'm going to hit play here.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Thanks for your time and attention today. It's been a day, and you're probably thinking about all the things you got to get back to right after this. Or maybe you're multitasking right at this very moment. Or if you weren't, now you're thinking about it. So I kindly invite you to just slow it down for a sec. Close your eyes and take a deep breath. In fact, take one more. Now you're probably thinking, of course, the guy from San Francisco is just going to lead us through some communist breathing exercises. Wrong, my friend. This is a story of disability. So this time, let's take just one more deep breath, but make sure you're acknowledging how big of a breath it is, how much your lungs are expanding, how much air is sustaining you. And then exhale. Now take half that breath and exhale. Now take half of that breath and exhale. Now you're at about 25% of your full lung capacity. And now try to breathe like that for the rest of your life. That's the reality my mom was facing this time last year. Before my mom's lung transplant, I had spent 10 years as a disability insurance specialist, helping people find plans to protect themselves financially against the strain of disabling illness. So I'm no stranger to the thought of disability, to disability statistics, or even the language of disability. But nothing can prepare you for the emotional duress of a disability event. This is where community and research are so vastly important. Disability is personal, oftentimes quiet, sheltered, unassuming. A proud and boisterous social butterfly like my mom can quickly reverse metamorphose back into a protective cocoon. At first it can feel temporary, just until I get a handle on this. It's acute after all. I have this condition, but at least there's a roadmap forward. But after a few weeks, months, years, it's starting to look like life is not answering your questions the way you thought it would. Mental health begins to atrophy, and voices you haven't heard in years begin to float up from your deep subconscious, breaching the tensile surface between your positivity barrier and into your daily aphorisms. One step at a time, you got this, and tomorrow are subverted by, what's the point? It's not worth it. And never. Most loved ones close their mind to this negativity. We've got to stay positive, keep battling, not with that attitude. And their words might be meant to fight an encroaching fear about the prospects of their own future, maybe one without you. And it's evident that they're attempting to retune their own psychological interference, and as this noise dissipates, it's clear that this need to stay upbeat really stems from their association with you and your experience, begging the question, am I bringing them to this sadness? Now this thought gets you down even further. Instinctively, you know your path, your survival, your grace all depend on facing the truth, and that requires meeting every possibility head on, even the worst. But some are too scary, and so you just glance, and it thrusts you back behind the curtain. You're their rock, but your fear melts into their fear, and fear with a capital F doesn't add or multiply, but exponentiates, because you know they can't handle crossing that ocean without you. Hell, they wouldn't even be here without you. And so you see their tactics, their strategy to keep it all bottled up in a cage instead of taking a seat at the table. And now it's a game. You know, you're on edge, your spouse withdraws, your kids lash out, your grandkids are none the wiser. Will they even know you? Not the way you want to be known, maybe not at all. You know the animosity stems from this illness, from this cruel challenge, but no one wants to come clean about how they're feeling. Suddenly everyone's studying their own reflection, their backs to one another as they all face the subject of mortality, theirs and yours, but not looking to you, not seeking your thoughts because of what they're afraid to hear. So everyone's emotions run amok. No one's able to lasso their emotions into submissions. No one's able to sit them down, to help them take a deep breath and say exactly what is going on here. No one even knows how to tie the rope for the lasso. And this is the reality of disability. This is the face of disability that no one wants to stare into. It can start with chronic pain from a lingering back issue, from a cancer that won't quit, or a neurodegenerative disorder like MS, Parkinson's, or ALS, where the uncertainty of every day can feel like too much to take on. Or it can be like my mom's case, interstitial lung disease. Now, interstitial lung disease literally means nothing and everything. My mom was down to 25% lung capacity. Her lungs were dying, and no medical professional could tell us how, why, or what to do from there outside of a lung transplant. It's been a somewhat repetitive series of despair, confusion, hope, and resignation. Each one of those 4 compounds laced together like the nucleic acid sequence that permeates every interaction, petulantly adding to the compound like DCHR, HDCH, RHCDR, CRCCD, etc. And through this, what's clearer to me than ever before is just how little we know about the human body, especially our lungs. Every amateur physician has the same first question. Did she smoke? Yes, I explained, but she quit after September 11th, 2001 because, and I quote, she didn't want to be looking for a cigarette if the world was going to hell in a handbasket. Now, this conversation, futile from a clinical perspective at least, allows the space to think back to that time and honor the mental fortitude and sacrifice that it truly takes to beat a smoking addiction. Her determination, perhaps her stubbornness, but mostly her toughness. I never told her this, but one evening in the fall of 2001, right when she was starting this process of quitting, I saw her run up the steps of our backyard to behind the hill in our house as she worked through a fit of cravings. She was hunched over, bowed at the waist, silently bawling to herself as I stared out the window watching. From her bent position, she suddenly jerked upright, leaned all the way back, with her hands on her hips, tears welled in her eyes as she fixed them to the clouds, and she sucked in that pure Indian summer air that you only find in the Bay Area with glaring disdain. Disdain that the air was not flavored like a smoldering leaf. Disdain with the lack of the active ingredient fueling the addiction. Disdain of the social and commercial pressures that led her to this lonely suffering. Regardless, the irony is searing. If she could breathe like that today, it would initiate a flood of gratitude. Fortunately, the lung transplant worked. There's still a long road ahead, but we're grateful that we had the plans in place to keep them afloat financially. And even though I never personally received a check from any insurance carrier throughout this ordeal, I benefited directly from their planning and foresight. You see, my mom was our in-house underwriting expert. She went into battle, sometimes diplomatically, fought day in and day out with underwriters to secure the best possible offers for our clients. My business didn't have overhead expense coverage, but her DI policies were enough to ensure that they could stay afloat financially as their livelihood was protected. That meant that even though I wasn't getting a check, my business would reallocate her salary and distributions back to the business, so we could hire a replacement while we reshuffled our workloads in an effort to provide the best services possible for our agents and advisors. So those little DI policies were directly aiding their financial picture, inadvertently preserving our company's momentum as well. I mention this because even though we specialize in DI for business owners, we rarely thought about the effect a DI plan can really have on the business, the employees, and even the community at large. This is the essence of DI. If you put on your oxygen mask first, you give everyone else a better shot at survival as well. So thanks for tuning in today, and with that, I wish you a very happy, hearty, and lucrative DI Awareness Month. God bless.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate everybody that's attended here today, and go sell some DI. Have a conversation. That's all we're asking. We'll talk to you guys soon, and thank you for joining us today. Have a good rest, everyone.